Merry Christmas! What? Who cares if I'm a few days late? Okay, it's Friday and Christmas was last Sunday, but I'm not a week late, I'm just 5 days late. Oh, shut up. It was busy, okay? The holidays are busy. I'm going to make it up to you guys, okay? I'm going to read a fanfic that is obviously Christmas related. And you're probably wondering why I'm not wearing my usual reviewing attire. Well, that's because of the shirt I'm wearing. It has something to do with the Grinch. That should be a hint enough of what today's fanfic is going to be, right? Well, somewhat. The fanfic is called How Placido Stole Christmas, and forgive me if I'm saying the name wrong. And obviously it's supposed to be a parody of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So, let's not waste any time. It's an anime manga, it's a Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's fanfiction. The author is Psykid or something. It's rated K+, it's in English, it's humor parody, Placido, and has 22 reviews. So, let's get started. Merry Christmas! Again! Yes, it's everyone's favorite season of snow, the season of winter, and the season to be greedy and receive lots of presents from people we don't know. Season of winter and snow, huh? You know what? It looked more like Christmas on Halloween. Kind of pathetic, huh? I guess even up in Canada they didn't get a lot of snow yet. That's kind of sad. Whatever, let's continue to read. 'Tis Christmas, everybody! For those who are fans of Little Kuribo's Yu-Gi-Oh! The abridged series, you'll probably know that Little Kuribo, or Bo, himself wouldn't have time to whip up a Christmas special because he was dealing with a cold. Personally, I was kind of sad to hear this, although I didn't take it personally. Why would you take someone getting a cold personally? That'd be kind of silly. How dare you get a cold? I hate you forever. Doesn't make any sense. This looks like a job for me. This person likes to write in caps, doesn't he? You know, the first time I did a Christmas fanfic, it was a Yu-Gi-Oh! GX fic that was a parody of Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, with everyone's favorite girly teacher, Dr. Crowler, playing the Grinch. Unfortunately, that story no longer exists, mainly because I felt that it was just bad, in a way. But I don't know. Fortunately, I have brought my Grinch parody back, except now it's going to be a Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D's fic. Yeah, I'm aware that there aren't much 5D's fans anywhere, including LK, but I still hope you enjoy it. All this is going over my head because I've never watched Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm only familiar with it because of the card game, and I never even played the card game. Just seemed like a Pokemon knockoff, if you ask me. But that's just my opinion. Also, you know how I've used the characters' English dub names for my Yu-Gi-Oh! GX one-shot fics? Well, for the 5D's anime, I'll be using the characters' original Japanese names instead of their English dub names. Just to make you all happy, especially for this time of year. So here's the 411. This is one long author's note. Geez, I think he's running a tie with BB Lovett. Or, I'm sorry, Novocaine Child, I stand corrected. Full summary. Placido is one of those 5D's baddies who obviously hates Christmas very much. After reading a classic Dr. Seuss story, which this very story parodies, Placido and his cohorts, Luciano and Jose, devise a plot to ruin Christmas for Neo Domino, or at least they tried to do it anyway. Disclaimer, I do not own Yu-Gi-Oh!, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, or any other Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime that Kazuki Takahashi, the series' actual creator, may come up with. I also do not own How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and I am, nor was I ever, related to Dr. Seuss in any form or way. Well, you never know. If you look back far enough, you might find out that you have a common ancestor. Which is kind of creepy if you think about it. For all you know, you could be related to royal family members. Or you could be related to a serial killer. And that's why I'm never going to look into that, because I don't think I want to know who I was once related to. It might be a good thing, it might be a bad thing. And knowing how I am, I'm probably related to a crazy person. See, I am crazy myself. So let's just continue with this lovely little fanfic. The only thing I own are my old computer with poor performance, my poor writing skills, and my intoxicated sense of humor. You know, it's not a good thing when the author themselves are trying to say that they have poor writing skills. Although so far, buddy, to be honest with you, your fanfic, well, your author's note anyway, is quite decent compared to other ones, so there might be hope for you after all. Oh, and when you see sentences that are almost completely in italicized font like this, that means there are some narrating going on in the story. Just saying. Hope you enjoy it, everybody. Rrr. I guess it's supposed to mean read and review or something? I don't know. How Placido Stole Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the town everyone was excited. There was not a single frown. The reason to be excited was on the very next day would be the day of Christmas, and it was practically on its way. Yes, it was indeed the day before Christmas in the populous city of Neo-Domino, and this was going to be a very special holiday to celebrate. You see, ever since Yusei Fudo of the once infamous Satellite and his two friends, Jack Atlas and Crow Hogan, fought in the final battle against the Dark Singers, a bridge was constructed to honor this event. Thus, the two nations of Neo-Domino and Satellite have finally made peace with each other. Here at this moment, we see Yusei Fudo, a tall man with a serious expression on his face and a hairdo that was a complete ripoff of Yugi Muto's. He was just staring at the city's many citizens taking part in the traditional activities such as donating to charity, hanging up Christmas decorations, and everyone's favorite holiday tradition of the last-minute Christmas shopping. He was admiring, if that would be an appropriate word to use, all of that until a voice behind him suddenly broke his concentration. "Hey, Yusei!" Yusei immediately turned his head and found that the voice belonged to none other than Crow Hogan, who was slightly shorter than Yusei with spiky orange hair and a piercing in his left eyebrow. "Hey, Crow," smiled Yusei. "What are you up to?" "Oh, nothing," answered Crow. "I'm just doing the usual. The admiration of the snow, the decision of what presents I want to get for my best buds, all that stuff. That, and I want to tell you that I found the perfect solution to finally beat Aki in a snowball fight." "Let me guess. You lost to her again?" asked Yusei, raising an eyebrow. "It was a lie!" shouted Crow. He slipped off the backpack he carried with him and took out some kind of multi-blaster gun. "Behold!" "What is that thing?" asked Yusei, looking at the weapon. "This, my friend," Crow proudly presented, "is the almighty Snowballer 6000. Equipped with the state-of-the-art snowball fighting technology, this bad boy is sure to pummel Aki to a pulp with these snowballs." "Good luck with that," Yusei said flatly. "And just what is going on here?" another voice from nearby asked. Both Yusei and Crow turned their heads and saw that the voice belonged to Jack Atlas, who was a tall and serious man with purple eyes and blonde hair in the style similar to Raphael's. He also wore a fancy trench coat similar to Seto Kaba's, sorry if I pronounced it wrong. So think of him as a blonde Seto Kaba if you can. "Oh, Crow's just gloating about how he's finally going to get Aki back in a snowball fight," explained Yusei. "Only because it's true." Wait, I think that's supposed to be true, but they kind of spelled it wrong. If you don't believe me, take a gander at this. Even if that is a real word, I highly doubt that was the word that was intended there. It should say because it's true, not because it's ter. So let's continue. Laughed Crow. Suddenly something, or should I say someone, caught his attention. "Ooh, here she comes now." He quickly started scooping up handfuls of snow and put them in his weapon, and then immediately turned his body towards that very someone. "All right, Aki Izayui." I probably said that wrong. "Prepare yourself, because I, the great Crow Hogan, am equipped with a weapon whose features are far beyond your possible imagination. I have the Snowballer 6000, the ultimate weapon in snowball fighting technology. You may have won plenty snowball fights against me, but now it's my turn as I..." Suddenly Crow was immediately pelted with several snowballs which came from Aki Izayoi. You said it wrong again. I'm just going to call her Aki, who had light brown eyes and curly magenta-colored hair. At this moment, she was wearing a dark red-colored coat and ruby high-heeled boots. She also wore a black red-colored cap on her head. And she, too, appeared to be carrying a weapon similar to Crow's, except bigger and more advanced in technology. "You were saying?" she said with a smile. Yusei and Jack couldn't keep themselves from laughing at Crow's misery. "Hey, not fair," whined Crow. "I'm the one with the Snowballer 6000, one of the greatest snowball fighting weapons ever created." "But I'm the one with the Snowballer 7000, said Aki, cocking her weapon, "a greater snowball fighting weapon ever created." 6,000 or 7,000 or maybe even 55 trillion, Crow declared bravely. "I'm still the one with the upper hand since you've used up all your ammunition, whereas I still have mine. Now it's time to take you down." Once again, Crow was suddenly pelted with several snowballs, courtesy of Kick Butt Aki. "My weapon also comes with double the amount of ammunition," explained Aki, cocking her weapon once again. "I'll just call it quits," Crow said weakly, as everyone else, including Aki, had another good laugh. Yes, everyone in Neo de Mino loved Christmas a lot, but Placido, who, along with his two cohorts, Luciano and Jos, came from some unknown galaxy with plans for world domination, who was now the head of Neo Domino Sector Security after the late Rex Goodwin, but will eventually be beaten in a children's card game by Yusei Fudo, since stuff like this always happens, but will still be the main antagonist for the second season. The same season this story takes place in, at this very moment, did not. Sorry, that was kind of unnecessary. I mean, you can't have all this lard in here if you're supposed to be spoofing how the Grinch stole Christmas. It doesn't really work. And there was everyone's favorite 5D's antagonist, Placido, who was a tall man wearing silver and white-colored futuristic clothing, including a hood. On his face was a gray metal piece of armor covering one of his two red eyes on the other side of his face. At this moment, he was staring down at the city from his hideout with a frown on his face. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. "I'll answer the door," Placido said in a rather monotonous tone of voice. He slowly headed to the door and opened it, and there stood a small boy wearing a small boy of 5 wearing a costume. "And just who are you supposed to be?" "Charity, kind sir," offered the boy, holding out a kettle. "What?" exclaimed Placido. "Please, kind sir," pleaded the boy, holding up his kettle up higher. "We may live in a popular city, but there are still people who are hungry, homeless, and unfortunate. Please give your earnings to charity." "Sure," responded Placido with a wicked grin across his face. "I'll see to that right away." He turned and called out his sing-song voice, "Oh, Jos!" "Yes, Master Placido?" asked Jos, who was a large man wearing the same style clothing as Placido. The only difference was that he had yellow eyes and a long gray beard that stretched down to his stomach. There was also some kind of mask covering his mouth. "It seems we have a little charity drive going on here," explained Placido, his grin still on his face. "Give him the special treatment, won't you?" "Yes, Master Placido," bowed Jos. Walking over to the boy, he quickly grabbed him by the arm and pulled him into a different room in the hideout. The door that closed on them had the words "Beating in Progress" marked in blood-red paint. This suggested that the room was some kind of beating room, since sounds of beatings and cries of pain came from the room. Gee, we never would have guessed that by the name of the room. Placido hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. It could be perhaps his clothes weren't fit on just right, or maybe it's because he carried a sword. What a fright! But I'll bet the most likable reason of all may be that his heart was 2 sizes too small. Master Placido, called Jos, slowly peeking out of the door. "Yes, what is it, Jos?" asked Placido. I think I may have beaten the kid a little too much," answered Jos. "Oh, just throw him down the chute that leads to the others," ordered Placido. "We shall dispose of him later." "Yes, Master Placido," bowed Jos, creeping back into the room. But whatever the reason, his heart or his sword, He stood there on Christmas Eve, hating those fools, staring down from his tower with a mere sour frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town, for he knew every citizen down there in the city beneath was busy now, having a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, Placido snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, but it's practically here. Then he growled, with his leather fingers nervously drumming. I must find some way to stop this Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all of Neo-Domino's girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush their toys. And at that moment, in Placido's nightmarish fantasy, we see Lua, who was a short kid with turquoise-colored hair with a ponytail on the top of his head, suddenly wake up bright on the morning of Christmas Day. Is it Christmas? He asked excitedly, quickly looking around the room. It is, it is. He tugged at the shoulder of his twin sister, Luca, who was still sleeping, shouting, Luca, wake up! Wake up! It's Christmas! Lua, it's 5:45 in the morning, moaned Luca. Who is the girl with the same colored hair as him? They're twins, after all, but in pigtails, pulling up the sheets to cover her whole body. Come on, whined Lua, quickly tugging at her again. It's Christmas. Where's your holiday cheer? Luca just breathed a heavy sigh and grumbled, Fine, I'll be with you in a few minutes. All right! Lua excitedly cheered, quickly rushing downstairs to the living room. And in the living room, a few minutes later, Lua and Luca, who were still in their pajamas, were opening the presents they had received from the big jolly man himself, Santa Claus. Lua appeared to be opening his presents faster than Luca, since we all know how hyperactive boys are like him, right? Yes, Lua cheered excitedly once again, holding up some kind of masculine action figure. I've got what I wanted. What is it? Asked Luca. The all-new Duke Nukem action figure, presented Lua, equipped with state-of-the-art laser blasting technology. Lua, are you sure that's even safe? Asked Luca with shock and horror. Oh, come on, chuckled Luca. How bad could it possibly be? He pressed a button on his action figure's weapon, and out a blast of actual laser beam, which left a hole through the wall of the living room. Oops, he said innocently. Luca was almost as excited as Lua when she opened up one of her gifts. Yes, this is exactly what I wanted too, she squealed excitedly. It's an official total drama action Princess Courtney doll, who sings the all-famous My Prince Will Come song. That toy is stupid, pouted Lua. Well, at least it's not as deadly as your so-called toy, Luca quickly counterpointed. Despite the previous argument, both Lua and Luca were really having fun with the presents they had received from Santa Claus. This is exactly what Placido feared, but it wasn't just from Lua and Luca's condominium. It would come from all the other boys and girls of New Domino, who would just be as excited as they would. And then, oh, the noise! Oh, the noise! 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 That's the one thing Placido hated. The noise! 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 Then all the citizens, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast, 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 feast. Placido furiously shouted, violently slicing a random dummy with the sword he unleashed from his sheath. His final slash completely diced the dummy to pieces. They would feast on their pudding and their rare juicy roast beast, which was something that Placido just couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something Placido liked the least of all. Every citizen of Neo-Domino, the tall and the small, would stand close together, with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the folks would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing, 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 sing. And the more Placido thought of the whole folk Christmas sing, the more that he thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for year after year I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Master Placido, can I ask you something? Asked Jose, exiting the beating room as soon as he was finished. Not now, Placido hissed. I'm busy hating my most hated holiday of all time that I hate most of all. I know, said Jose, but I really want to ask you something. Something that I've been meaning to ask you for quite some time now. All right, what do you want? Grumbled Placido, streaming his fingers through the top of his head. Why exactly must we brutally assault innocent people who are only trying to help? Asked Jose. And just what's that supposed to mean? Exclaimed Placido. I mean, come on, responded Jose. Right now, we've just mutilated some kid who was only trying to raise money for charity. People should really know their places in the world, grumbled Placido. And last week, Jose continued to rant, we've mutilated an innocent little girl who was trying to make money to take care of her hundreds of thousands of kittens and puppies. What difference does that make? Asked Placido without care. There has to be some reason that we're ending innocent children's lives so meaninglessly, exclaimed a slightly outraged Jose. I mean, what did those kids ever do to you? Placido remained silent for a few minutes. Then he reasoned, I don't know. You don't know? Exclaimed a new completely outraged Jose. That is the best reason you can come up with? If this crappy author doesn't make me so loyal to you, I'd stick your own sword right up here. Before he could finish his sentence, the automatic slide door slid open and walked in Luciano, who was a short kid wearing the same style clothing as Placido and Jose's. The only difference is that Luciano had green eyes and that the piece of metal covering one of his two eyes was on the left side of his face instead of the right. As he entered, he was mischievously snickering at some kind of book he was reading. Luciano, Placido scolded him. Can you not see that I'm in the middle of my pointless ranting? Sorry, boss, Luciano chuckled, still reading his book. I just can't seem to put this book down. You can't seem to put what book down? Placido sternly questioned. Well, explained Luciano, holding up the book, How the Grinch Stole Christmas by Dr. Seuss. It's about this one guy who hates Christmas as much as you do, then disguises himself as Santa Claus with an attempt to steal it. But, what did you say? Placido asked with delight, quickly snatching Luciano's book and quickly skimming to the part where the Grinch planned to steal Christmas. Hey, I was reading that, pouted Luciano, but Placido didn't listen. He was too busy admiring the wicked scheme the Grinch made to ruin Christmas. He slowly put the book down with a very wicked smile on his face. Then he got an idea. An awful idea. Placido got a wonderful, awful idea. Jose? He's having that look again, Luciano told Jose, feeling a bit uneasy. Don't worry, I'm sure it'll pass, Jose calmly told him. Alas, the crazed look on Placido's face didn't pass. He quickly grabbed some red fabric and some cotton, and then ran into a different room of their hideout even quicker. I know just what to do. Placido laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and coat. And he chuckled, and he laughed. What a great sneaky trick. With this coat and this hat, I'll look just like St. Nick. He eventually exited out of the room where he made his costume right in front of Luciano and Jose. Well, how do I look? He asked them. Boss, said Luciano. No hard feelings, but I think Halloween was, I don't know, a couple months ago. No, Luciano, corrected Placido. Do you not get it? I, Placido, have disguised myself as Santa Claus in an attempt to ruin Christmas for Neo Domino once and for all. And just how exactly are you going to do that? Jose questioned flatly. Easy, explained Placido. I'll rob the folks of everything related to that dreaded holiday for Christmas. That way, they'll have nothing to celebrate Christmas with. He then cackled triumphantly, assuming that his plan would be foolproof. And why do you have to be Santa Claus? Jose brought up another question. Hello, replied Placido. The story is entitled How Placido Stole Christmas, and since my name is Placido, that makes me the one who gets to play a Santa Claus. But how could you possibly be Santa Claus? Cried Jose. You're not as fat as Santa Claus, nor do you even have a beard. Not have a beard, eh? Placido snickered. That can be arranged. I hate you, grumbled Jose, his beard now completely shaven off and attached to Placido's chin. Oh, calm down, scolded Placido. I'm sure we'll make a hair growth formula once we succeed in our mission. Now then, Luciano, since you're a good mechanist, I want you to make us our sleigh. Yes, sir, Luciano loyally obeyed, saluting him. He grabbed some nearby tools and went off to the garage to create their sleigh. After about 3 hours, Luciano was completely finished with making the sleigh. Placido and Jose have entered the garage to see the sleigh that he created. It appeared to be a very ordinary red sleigh, but instead of reindeer, it was a brown-colored machine Emperor Skyel Infinity in front of the sleigh. Honestly, you couldn't have made our vehicle less obvious, sighed Placido. Hey, I already spent 3 hours on it, okay? Whined Luciano. Fine, we'll keep it as it is, said Placido. Now then, I want the both of you to be my elves. What? Screamed Jose in response to Placido's unreasonable demand. You want us to be your elves? Well, duh, cried Placido, rolling his eyes. Everyone knows that Santa must have elves in order to be Santa Claus. How could we possibly be your elves? Exclaimed Jose. I mean, sure, Luciano would be one of your elves, but how could I? Oh, don't worry, grinned Placido. I have made a very special costume for you. A few minutes later, Placido saw that Luciano was already in his elf costume, the same elf costume the boy wore before his life abruptly ended. But Placido was still frowning because Jose hadn't come out in his elf costume as of yet. Come on, Jose, Placido impatiently called out. What is taking you so long? I am not coming out, grumbled Jose from the changing room. You have to, shouted Placido, or else we won't be able to ruin Christmas for everybody. I'm not coming out, repeated Jose. And why not? Demanded Placido. Because this costume makes me look like an idiot, shouted Jose. Oh, come on, cried Placido. I'm sure you don't look that bad. Now come on out. Jose just breathed out heavily and sighed, and slowly walked out of the changing room wearing his elf costume. But the elf costume was a tad too small for him, thus it revealed both his bare arms and legs, as well as his bare, hairy stomach. I really hate you, grumbled Jose. Oh, come on. Luciano mocked him in a babyish voice, pinching and wiggling his cheek. You look so cute in that costume. I don't want to look cute, screamed Jose. Enough of this pointless bickering, declared Placido. We have a holiday to ruin. Now let's go. Later that night, right on Christmas Eve, Placido and his cohorts were now flying in their rocket-powered sleigh, flying high above Neo-Domino City, finding a good place to land. Where should we land this thing, boss? Asked Placido, who was driving the sleigh. There, looks like a good spot, suggested Placido, pointing to Lua and Luca's condominium. Luciano then flew the plane over the house. Then, as carefully as he could, he lowered the sleigh until it completely landed on the roof. Although it landed as carefully as possible, there was still a small thump to be heard from the landing. All their windows were dark, quiet snow-filled air. All the townspeople were dreaming sweet dreams without care, when he came to the only biggest house on the square. This is stop number 1, the old Placido Claus hissed, and he climbed to the chimney, empty bags in his fists. All right, you two, Placido quietly ordered. As soon as I make it all the way down the chimney, you pull out the vacuum. Right. Luciano and Jose quickly obeyed. Afterwards, Placido prepared himself to slide down the chimney. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight squeeze, but if Santa Claus could do it, then so could he. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two, but he stuck himself out of the fireplace flue. All right, I'm in, Placido whispered up the chimney. A giant red tube, presumably a vacuum, slid down the chimney, and it was about a couple of inches above the bottom of the chimney, where it would be out of sight. Placido then found little stockings hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. The stockings he found were each blue and pink, indicating the blue belonged to Lua and the pink belonged to Luca. Within a single swipe, he grabbed both stockings and threw them both in the chimney, in which they were sucked up by the vacuum. Afterwards, Placido continued his mission to ruin Christmas once and for all. He slithered and slunk, with a smile most unpleasant, around the whole room, and he took every present: pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums, Duke Nukem merchandise, Lego building blocks, sketchbooks, art supplies, underwear, and socks. And he stuffed them in bags. Then Placido very nimbly stuffed all of the bags one by one up the chimney. Or, as I should quote the author, chimbly, because they spelled it wrong. That's why you proofread your work before you publish it. Just as it happened with the stockings, the bags stuffed with gifts were sucked up by the chimney. Okay, I guess he realized that he did spell it wrong. So what, is he purposely spelling things wrong? By the vacuum, which led to his and his companion's getaway vehicle. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the folks' feast. He took their chocolate pudding. He took the roast beef. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that fiend even took their last can of fresh hash. Need I say this? Placido shoved all the now stolen food into the chimney. which was sucked up by the vacuum. However, that very can of fresh hash accidentally fell out of the sack and clattered on the ground, which awoke the two very familiar sleepers upstairs. He then stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. "And now," grinned Placido, "I'll stuff up the tree." Thus he grabbed the tree and started to shove. Then he heard a small sound, like a coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and what did he see? It was little Miss Luca, who was 15 minus 3. And in parentheses, authors note the story takes place between Season 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh's 5Ds, which is said to take place about 1 year after the first season of The Dark Singers. Since Lua and Luca are both 11 in the first season, it's possibly implied that they would be between 12 in the second. You really didn't need to explain that, because I'm assuming that most people who are reading this fanfic are familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh! Luca was a girl with skin as smooth as silk, who had gone out of bed for a cup of warm milk. She stared at Placido and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" Placido was surprised to see that Luca hadn't seen through his costume. Alas, he knew that she couldn't be fooled for long just because of appearance. Placido had to think of a good excuse for stealing the tree and fast. But, you know, that fiend Placido was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied. "There's a light on this tree that won't light up on one side." "But this tree's working fine," counterpointed Luna. The tree's lights were all indeed working properly, so there's no reason to. Astonished and horrified, Placido quickly unscrewed a random light from the tree and rapidly stomped on it with his foot, crushing it to bits. "Oh," Luca then realized. Placido then continued, "So I'm taking it up to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head, and he got her a warm milk and sent her to bed. Just as soon as Luca and Placido were at the entrance of the bedroom, Placido's fake beard accidentally fell off, thus convincing Luca that Placido wasn't really Santa Claus after all. "Hey, you're not Santa," she gasped, but Placido came prepared. He instantly sprayed some sleeping gas on her face, and Luca went out like a light. Placido fastened his beard back on, carried Luca to bed, carefully tucked her back in, and fled back down into the living room to stuff up the tree once again. And when little Miss Luca went to bed with her cup, Placido went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was a log for their fire. He then went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. After both the tree and the firewood were sucked up by the vacuum, Placido yanked on the tube twice, and he went up, right up the chimney. The annoying narrator that indeed made a point. With all of Lua and Luca's holiday gifts and decorations now stolen, there were nothing but hooks and some string lying on the walls. Then he did the same thing to the other folks' house, leaving crumbs so much too small for other folks' mouses. It was quarter past down. Okay, all the folks still abed, all the folks still a snooze, when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, their ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsel, the trimming, the trappings. After this, many trips involving plundering precious presents, snatching sweet treats, and robbing roast beasts, Placido and his minions had finally stolen all of Neo Domino's Christmas presents and decorations, although it was Placido himself who did most of the work. "Take us up, Luciano," Placido triumphantly commanded. Luciano started up the sleigh's engines, and up they went. "Where to, boss?" asked Luciano. "Up to the tallest mountain you can find," ordered Placido. "What for?" asked Joseph. "You'll see once the narrator begins his narrating," answered Placido, as Luciano guided the vehicle to the tallest mountain he could find. 3,000 feet up to the top of Mount Crumpet. He rose with his load to the tip top to dump it. "Wait, to dump it?" gasped Joseph. Just as soon as they had landed on top of the mountain, Lucio had found it. "Isn't that a bit, I don't know, meaningless?" "Oh, I'm sure that most of these gifts are fragile," said Luciano. "Pooh-hoo to those fools," Luciano was excitedly humming. They're finding out soon that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up, and I know what they'll do. Their mouths will go agape in a minute or two. Then everyone in Neo City will all cry boo-hoo." Looks like you'll have to wait on the whole dumping thing, boss, informed Luciano, checking out the vehicle's engine status. All of this stealing, the engine is near to overheating. Fear not, Luciano. Placido calmed him down. We shall wait, for I am just excited to hear everyone else's misery and suffering. That's a noise, grinned Placido, that I simply must hear. So he paused and put a hand close to his ear. Placido did hear sound rising over the snow. It started low, then it started to grow. Hey, all of our presents are missing, one random child cried from below. Yes, Placido excitedly grinned. And all of our food is gone, another random child also cried. Yes, Placido grinned more with excitement. Christmas is ruined, wailed yet another random child. Yes, Placido squealed, shaking his clenched fists. Sure enough, everyone back down in Neo Domino was frightened because all their Christmas-related items were now missing. How could this have happened? Lua panicked, quickly pacing around the center of the city. All of my presents are gone. And so are the decorations. So the tree. Christmas is ruined. Lua, I'm just as upset about this as you are, Luca calmly told him, but at least I have plenty of common sense to know that Christmas isn't always about presents, decorations, or all that stuff. Christmas is about all of us getting together and remembering the birth of Jesus Christ, the person who sacrificed himself to save this very world from sin. There was a silence for a few moments, and then Lua went back to panicking about Christmas being ruined. Luca just hung her head and breathed a heavy sigh. Aki Azayo, who, too, was at the site where the riot was occurring, had other plans to try to calm the riot down. She simply cleared her throat, and then sang a beautiful and melodious song, or melodious voice. Silent night, holy night. And thankfully, I don't have to sing the entire thing. With that, everyone, including Lua, stopped panicking to listen to Aki's beautiful voice. After a few seconds, Luca joined in with her singing, then Yusei, then Jack, then Crow. Meanwhile, back on the top of the mountain, Placido was shocked himself. Shocked that he had heard everyone's misery and suffering, he heard jolly singing. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so. But it was merry. Very. He stared down at Neo Domino. Placido's eyes popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every citizen in Neo Domino, tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it just came the same. Our horrified Placido was mumbling to himself as he paced around the snow, not believing what he believed was his flawless plan that epically failed. Boss, Luciano tried to cheer him up. It's really not that big a deal. You should interrupt him right now? Okay, you need to fix that entirely, suggested Jos. He's having one of those moods again. Good point, agreed Luciano. And Placido, with his feet pacing around the snow, was puzzling and puzzling. How could this be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. As Placido continued to pace around the snow, Luciano and Jos both decided to fill in on what the narrator was going to narrate next. And you'll puzzle 3 hours till your puzzler is sore, began Luciano. Then you'll think of something you hadn't before, continued Jos. Maybe Christmas, you'll think, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a bit more. And then on this day, Christmas Day, your small heart will 3 sizes that day. Placido immediately stopped his pacing around and just stared down at the now jolly city, saying nothing for a few seconds. Afterwards, he slowly turned his head towards his companions, the only 2 friends he ever had, with a gentle yet misunderstood expression on his face. The rest of his body came along with his head, and 5 words broke out of his mouth. But these weren't just any 5 words, you see. These very 5 words formed a sentence that he had never said before in his life. That very 5-worded sentence was sure to change the rest of life as we all know it. The 5-sentence word Placido said was, "You're bleeping kidding me, right?" Luciano and Jos said nothing for a few seconds, seeing this wasn't the 5-worded sentence they were hoping Placido would say. "Right?" repeated Placido in a loud, thunderous voice, violently unleashing his sword from his sheath and sticking out in front of Luciano and Jose. Then the two of them quickly and innocently shook their heads no, as if they didn't want to be sliced into bits by their master. I have figured as such, Placido said darkly, slowly placing his sword back in his sheath. He quickly headed off to the sled and declared, I don't care if I made those pathetic fools cry or not. All that matters is that the presents are mine, and I know just what to do with them. He violently started the sleigh's engines, and the sleigh rose at a dangerous altitude. But boss, Luciano warned him, the engine hasn't cooled down yet. Screw the engine, I have presents, shouted Placido. Presents that are soon to be no more anyway. He cackled maniacally as he kept rising and until boom. And with that, the engine in the sleigh did overheat, as Luciano had warned him. The result, Placido, who was dangerously high in the air, fell down and rapidly slid down the mountain, unable to control the sled, hollering along the way. The only people left on the mountain were Luciano and Jose, who were staring down at Placido's demise. Man, groaned Luciano, I can't believe that the boss is actually going to die this soon. I know how you feel, friend, said Jose, putting a hand on Luciano's shoulder. Yeah, Luciano lightly sighed. There was a silence as they kept watching. Got any popcorn? Jose asked. No, but I have peanuts, said Luciano, holding out 2 packets of peanuts. That'll do, said Jose, as he and Luciano chowed down on peanuts, now gleefully watching Placido head to his untimely death. Unbeknownst to them, Placido actually wasn't heading to his untimely death. And you want to know why he wasn't going to die? It was because of the evil acts of the no-good 4Kids Entertainment. That's why. Wait, I'm not going to die? Placido cried with relief. Ha! I'm not going to die. Once I get off this infernal contraption, I shall have my revenge against those pathetic fools. Instead, he crashed into a wall. What? Placido cried weakly. Before he could continue, he crashed into the wall of a random building in Neo Domino. The force of the crash resulted in a big bang in the big bag of stolen Christmas goodies fling out of the sleigh and in the center of the town square, surprising everyone else in the city. Hey, our presents are back, Crow gasped with excitement as everyone quickly ran to the bag to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. Yes, everyone was now officially happy this Christmas. Everyone except Placido, that is. This is why I hate Christmas so much. He moaned weakly, falling unconscious. The end. Okay, author's note. Yeah, I don't think this was one of my best fics either. Also, for those who are religious, the whole Jesus thing, along with the mentioning of the kids being murdered by Jose, were not made to be offensive in any sort of way. They are both made for entertainment purposes only. For the Jesus thing, I'm not sure if I'm religious, but then again, I know that I'm not Antichrist either. Just saying. Still, I hope you all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, not to mention a new decade. Actually, this fanfic really wasn't that bad. It dragged on a little too much, I will admit. That is very true. There's a lot of pointless stuff in here that you really didn't need. But as a parody of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, it did very well. Except for one thing. There wasn't a spoof of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch. So you want to know something? I'm going to do my own spoof. You're a mean one, Placido. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus and as charming as an eel, Placido. Oh, you're a bad banana with the greasy black peel. You're a monster, Placido. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders. You've got garlic in your soul, Placido. Oh, I wouldn't touch you with the 39.5-inch pole. Yeah, I was going to try to do the entire song, but the song gets kind of repetitive after a while. Well, I'm the FanFic Critic. I read it, you listen. I hope you all had a very Merry Christmas. And I hope you guys all have a very good New Year, which will be right around the corner.